What if I told you that right now, behind closed doors, world leaders are making decisions that could drag the entire planet into war? Military budgets are skyrocketing, war drills are increasing, and secret alliances are being formed. Some experts warn that 2025 could be the year everything changes. From the Pacific to Eastern Europe, tensions are reaching a boiling point. Nations are preparing for something big, something that could shake the foundations of global stability. Could this be the beginning of World War III? In this video, we'll break down 7 countries that are making bold military moves, increasing their firepower, and positioning themselves for a possible global conflict. Some of these names won't surprise you, but others might leave you stunned. Stay until the end, because the final country on this list could be the one to spark it all. Before we begin, if you're new here, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Peace over war. Let's spread positivity even in uncertain times. Now, let's dive in. 7. Iran. Iran has long been a focal point of global tensions, but in recent years, its military buildup and strategic alliances have made it a major player in a potential global conflict. Once considered a regional power, Iran is now extending its influence far beyond the Middle East, forming deep partnerships with Russia and China, while strengthening its military capabilities at an unprecedented rate. Its growing military strength is not just about defense, it's a calculated move to challenge Western dominance and establish itself as a force to be reckoned with. The Iranian government has increased its defense budget significantly, prioritizing advancements in ballistic missiles, drone warfare, and cyber operations. It has also expanded its nuclear program, defying Western sanctions and concerns. As 2025 approaches, Iran is preparing for a confrontation that could escalate far beyond its borders, drawing in multiple global powers. The big question is, will Iran's military rise trigger a war that no one can control? Beyond its rivalry with Israel, Iran also plays a key role in global energy security, making it a strategic target for both economic and military interventions. The Strait of Hormuz, a vital maritime passage through which about 20% of the world's oil supply flows, remains a major flashpoint. Iran has repeatedly threatened to block or disrupt shipping routes in response to Western sanctions or military actions. If Iran were to follow through on these threats, the economic consequences would be devastating, not just for oil-dependent nations, but for the global financial system. The U.S. and its allies have already stationed naval fleets in the Persian Gulf, preparing for any potential Iranian aggression. A direct military conflict in this region wouldn't just be about Iran. It would impact global markets, oil prices, and international stability. Could an economic war quickly spiral into a worldwide military confrontation? Many experts believe the answer is yes. Perhaps the most concerning development is Iran's growing partnership with Russia and China, which has shifted the global balance of power. Historically, Iran was somewhat isolated on the international stage, but that is no longer the case. Over the past few years, Iran has signed major military agreements with Russia, gaining access to advanced fighter jets, missile systems, and military training. It has also begun economic cooperation with China, allowing Beijing to bypass Western sanctions and secure a steady flow of Iranian oil. These alliances are not just symbolic, they have real strategic implications. If a war were to break out involving Iran, it is highly likely that Russia and China would come to its aid, directly or indirectly, creating a dangerous global standoff. The idea of the West facing off against an Iran-Russia-China alliance is a scenario that military analysts have warned about for years, and in 2025, this possibility seems more real than ever. The reality is, Iran is not just preparing for war, it is positioning itself as a key player in a potential World War III scenario. While some argue that Iran's actions are purely defensive, others see clear signs that it is escalating conflicts to assert dominance in the Middle East and beyond. If tensions continue to rise, Iran could be the spark that ignites a much larger global conflict. Will diplomacy and strategic deterrence prevent this nightmare scenario, or are we already on a path that cannot be reversed? 6. North Korea. For decades, North Korea has been a wild card in global geopolitics, but in recent years it has become an even bigger ticking time bomb. Under the leadership of Kim Jong-un, the country has dramatically expanded its nuclear arsenal, developed advanced missile technology, and strengthened its military ties with Russia and China. What was once considered an isolated and economically struggling nation is now a heavily armed state with the potential to disrupt the global order. As tensions rise in East Asia, North Korea is positioning itself as a direct threat to the United States, South Korea, and Japan. The question is no longer if North Korea will act, but when, and 2025 might be the year that Pyongyang finally pushes the world to the brink of a catastrophic war. One of the biggest concerns is North Korea's rapidly advancing missile technology. In recent years, it has successfully tested intercontinental ballistic missiles (ICBMs) capable of reaching the U.S. mainland. This means that for the first time, North Korea has a credible nuclear threat against the United States. Military experts believe that Kim Jong-un sees his nuclear weapons not just as a deterrent, but as a bargaining chip, a way to force the world to recognize North Korea as a global power. But with the U.S. and South Korea increasing joint military drills, Pyongyang has responded with more aggressive threats, claiming it will launch preemptive nuclear strikes if it feels provoked. Could a miscalculation or a sudden military provocation be the event that sparks a massive war? Many experts believe the world is closer than ever to such a scenario. Adding to the tension is North Korea's growing military partnership with Russia and China. In the past, China was seen as the only major ally of North Korea, but recent reports suggest that Russia is now supplying advanced military technology to Pyongyang in exchange for weapons and ammunition for the war in Ukraine. This has dramatically changed the geopolitical landscape. A North Korea that is militarily equipped by Russia and economically supported by China is no longer just a rogue state. It's part of a powerful anti-Western alliance. If war breaks out in Taiwan, Ukraine, or the Korean Peninsula, North Korea could be one of the first countries to escalate the conflict, potentially dragging the United States and its allies into a two-front or even three-front war. The situation on the Korean Peninsula remains one of the most volatile flashpoints in the world. South Korea and North Korea are still technically at war, and the border between them, the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, is one of the most militarized places on Earth. If Kim Jong-un feels threatened or sees an opportunity to strike first, he might launch a full-scale invasion of South Korea, believing that nuclear deterrence will prevent the U.S. from responding. However, this would likely trigger an immediate and devastating counterattack from the U.S., Japan, and South Korea, leading to one of the deadliest conflicts of the 21st century. And if China and Russia decide to back North Korea, the world could find itself in an all-out global war. The stakes have never been higher, and as 2025 approaches, many are wondering, is North Korea preparing to make its most dangerous move yet? 5. China. China has become an increasingly dominant player on the world stage in recent decades, and as it continues to grow both economically and militarily, its global influence is expanding at an alarming rate. Under President Xi Jinping, China has not only strengthened its economic power, but has also made significant strides in developing its military capabilities. China's rapid rise as a technological and economic powerhouse has shifted the balance of power, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, which has created rising tensions with the West. The Chinese government's desire to challenge the status quo and reshape the global order has placed it on a potential collision course with countries like the United States, Japan, and others in the international community. With global rivalries intensifying, there is growing concern that China's ambitions may eventually lead to conflict, and 2025 may prove to be the turning point where tensions escalate into something much more severe. One of the most alarming issues in recent years has been China's assertive actions in the South China Sea, an area of strategic and economic importance. China has been increasingly building artificial islands, deploying military assets, and asserting sovereignty over contested territories, disregarding international laws and rulings such as the 2016 Hague ruling, which deemed its claims illegal. With this region being one of the busiest trade routes in the world, it's no surprise that the United States and its allies, such as Australia and Japan, have begun to challenge China's territorial assertions. Freedom of navigation operations by the U.S. Navy and military maneuvers in the region are becoming routine, and tensions continue to rise as China responds with military threats and protests. If China continues to feel encroached upon, there's a real possibility of military confrontation over the South China Sea, particularly with growing concerns about access to resources and global trade security. Such a conflict could trigger a wider regional war, which might involve China, the U.S., and other nations, sending shockwaves throughout the world economy and security apparatus. In addition to its aggressive territorial and military ambitions, China has been rapidly advancing its military capabilities, particularly in missile technology, nuclear weapons, and cyber warfare. China is now regarded as having one of the most advanced missile systems in the world, including hypersonic missiles, which could threaten U.S. military bases and allies across the Pacific. Its nuclear arsenal is also expanding, and experts predict that China is on track to significantly increase the number of its nuclear warheads over the next few years. The military modernization program is not limited to conventional weaponry. China is also making huge investments in cyber capabilities, which could enable it to disrupt global communications, infrastructure, and even launch cyber attacks on key systems in enemy nations. A conflict with China is not confined to traditional warfare. It would likely involve multidimensional strategies, including cyber warfare, space-based operations, and economic warfare. With growing concerns over these asymmetric capabilities, many fear that China's approach to military power could lead to a more destabilizing and unpredictable conflict in the near future. 4. Russia. Russia has become one of the most concerning nations in global geopolitics, largely due to its aggressive foreign policy under President Vladimir Putin. After Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, tensions with the West reached a boiling point, and the situation has only worsened in recent years. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has escalated into a full-scale war, which has not only strained Russia's relations with the United States and European Union, but also shattered any hope of a return to cooperation between Russia and the West. Russia's actions in Ukraine and its military interventions have drawn sharp criticism, leading to global sanctions and the isolation of Russia from much of the international community. But even as the world isolates Russia, the Kremlin continues to assert its influence on the global stage, making it a key player in any potential future conflicts. As of 2025, Russia is highly prepared for military confrontation, boasting a robust arsenal of advanced weaponry, nuclear capabilities, and cyber warfare technology. Russia's military strength is formidable, with the Russian armed forces being one of the largest and most technologically advanced in the world. Russia's nuclear capabilities are a major deterrent, with an estimated 6,000 nuclear warheads in its arsenal, giving it significant leverage over other countries. Additionally, Russia's development of hypersonic missiles and advanced missile defense systems has made it a serious military threat. The Russian military also excels in cyber warfare, using sophisticated tactics to destabilize countries, hack critical infrastructure, and spread disinformation. This non-traditional warfare strategy has made Russia a particularly difficult adversary to predict and counter. The increasing reliance on hybrid warfare, including cyber attacks, misinformation campaigns, and proxy conflicts, has added to the volatility in international relations. Russia's actions, including its cyber attacks on countries like the United States and its use of military proxy groups in Syria, Libya, and Africa, showcase a broader strategy aimed at destabilizing regions and sowing division. Russia's geopolitical aspirations have been clear in recent years, particularly in Europe and the former Soviet Union. Russia's involvement in Ukraine, the Balkans, and its support of separatist movements in Moldova and Georgia reflect its desire to reassert influence over its near abroad. The expansion of NATO into Eastern Europe, which Russia views as a direct threat, has become a central point of contention. The Baltic states and Poland are particularly concerned about Russia's intentions, as Russia's rhetoric has often referred to the possibility of defending ethnic Russians or Russian-speaking populations outside its borders. Additionally, Russia's growing military presence in the Arctic, where new shipping routes and resource deposits are opening up due to climate change, could provoke tensions with other Arctic nations, such as the United States, Canada, and Norway. The Arctic is now viewed as a critical area of military and economic competition, and Russia's increased militarization of the region could lead to future clashes over sovereignty and resource access. 3. The United States. The United States remains one of the world's most powerful and influential nations, both militarily and economically. Despite internal challenges, the U.S. continues to lead in technological innovation, military strength, and global diplomacy. However, the growing competition from countries like China and Russia, combined with increasing instability in global affairs, has placed the U.S. in a difficult position. In 2025, the U.S. military is more prepared than ever to handle multiple threats from both state and non-state actors. With the largest defense budget in the world, the U.S. boasts a military that includes advanced air power, nuclear capabilities, and a global network of alliances. The United States has made it clear that it intends to remain the dominant military and economic power, but this ambition is beginning to be tested on the world stage. If the U.S. continues to engage in confrontations with nations like China, Russia, and others, the risk of a large-scale conflict grows with each passing year. One of the key factors that have placed the United States on a collision course with other global powers is its military presence around the world. With over 800 military bases across the globe, the U.S. maintains an unprecedented ability to project power anywhere in the world. This global reach has made the U.S. a central player in conflicts ranging from the Middle East to Eastern Europe and the Asia-Pacific. The U.S. military, which includes highly advanced nuclear weapons, stealth technology, and cyber capabilities, serves as both a deterrent and a potential spark for conflict. While the U.S. uses its military to ensure global security, its presence in key regions often leads to friction with local powers, especially those who view American influence as interference in their own affairs. In particular, Russia's military posturing in Eastern Europe, along with China's military assertiveness in the South China Sea, has placed the U.S. in direct opposition to two of the world's most powerful nations. In the context of global power dynamics, the United States' strategic alliances play a crucial role. NATO, the Quad, and other defense partnerships ensure that the U.S. has a network of allies in virtually every corner of the globe. These alliances provide the U.S. with both strategic depth and military backup in times of crisis. However, these alliances are also sources of tension with adversarial nations. Russia, in particular, views NATO's expansion as a direct threat to its national security, while China perceives U.S. military activities in the Asia-Pacific region as interference in its sphere of influence. This complex web of alliances and rivalries contributes to an environment ripe for conflict, where even minor incidents could escalate into something far more dangerous. Furthermore, U.S. economic sanctions and diplomatic pressure on adversaries like Russia and China have created a climate of resentment that fuels further hostilities. 2. NATO and the European Union. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is one of the most powerful military alliances in the world, comprising 30 member countries, including the United States, Canada, and most European nations. The alliance was originally created in 1949 to provide collective defense against the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Its main purpose today is to ensure the security of its member states by deterring and defending against any potential aggression. NATO's military capabilities include advanced nuclear deterrence, conventional forces, and cyber defense systems, making it a formidable military power on the global stage. However, NATO has faced increasing challenges in recent years, particularly from an increasingly assertive Russia and a rising China that threatens to disrupt the balance of power. Russia's actions in Ukraine and its frequent military exercises near NATO borders have led to heightened tensions, leading the alliance to increase its military presence in Eastern Europe. In addition, NATO's involvement in various global conflicts, including the war in Afghanistan, has raised questions about its future role in global security. The European Union, EU, is a political and economic union of 27 European countries, which together form one of the largest and most influential regions in the world. While the EU does not have its own military force, it plays a significant role in global diplomacy and economic relations. The EU is particularly known for its collective bargaining power, especially in terms of trade, regulations, and political influence. Since the end of the Cold War, the EU has increasingly sought to create a common foreign and security policy to enhance its global influence, although member states often have divergent views on key issues. The EU has also expanded its role in humanitarian aid and peacekeeping missions, participating in operations in Africa, the Middle East, and the Balkans. Despite its economic strength, the EU faces ongoing challenges regarding its internal cohesion, such as disagreements over migration, economic policy, and the role of sovereign nations versus EU institutions. In 2025, the EU's position is becoming increasingly vital as it tries to balance its economic interests with growing global instability, particularly the rise of global powers like China and Russia. The relationship between NATO and the EU is complex and often overlapping, especially as many countries are members of both organizations. However, despite sharing many common values, there are also significant differences in their missions and priorities. NATO is primarily a military alliance, while the EU focuses on economic cooperation, governance, and diplomacy. Nevertheless, both organizations have worked to strengthen their partnership in recent years, particularly in addressing emerging threats such as cybersecurity, terrorism, and hybrid warfare. NATO provides the security umbrella for Europe, while the EU contributes to political and economic stability within the region. The European Security and Defense Policy, ESDP, has sought to create a more cohesive defense policy within the EU, but it remains secondary to NATO in terms of military power. In terms of defense, the EU has historically been reluctant to build up its military capabilities to match NATO's, preferring to focus on diplomatic solutions and economic sanctions to resolve conflicts. However, the EU's efforts to establish a more unified defense strategy could become crucial as geopolitical tensions rise. 1. Israel. Israel stands as a unique geopolitical entity in the Middle East, surrounded by nations that have historically had contentious or outright hostile relations with it. Founded in 1948 as a homeland for the Jewish people, Israel has faced continuous threats to its existence from its neighbors, including multiple wars, border disputes, and security challenges. In 2025, Israel remains a military powerhouse, with one of the most advanced defense systems in the world, including the Iron Dome, designed to intercept missiles and rockets. Its highly skilled and well-equipped Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, maintain a state of constant readiness, ensuring that Israel can respond quickly to any potential threat. The country is also known for its nuclear weapons program, although it has maintained a policy of ambiguity, neither confirming nor denying the possession of nuclear weapons. This nuclear deterrent, combined with Israel's advanced technology and military capabilities, makes it a formidable force in the region. Israel's alliances are also key to its strategic positioning. It enjoys strong support from the United States, which provides significant military aid, diplomatic backing, and intelligence sharing. This support has been a cornerstone of Israel's defense strategy, providing both a military and political counterbalance to the threats posed by hostile neighbors. Israel is also an important partner in the global fight against terrorism, particularly in combating Islamist extremists in the Middle East. Its intelligence agencies, such as Mossad, are among the most advanced in the world and have played a critical role in preventing attacks against Israel and its allies. However, Israel's close relationship with the U.S. has also made it a target for criticism from some global players, particularly in the United Nations, where it faces accusations of human rights violations related to its treatment of Palestinians. Despite the criticism, Israel remains steadfast in its defense of its sovereignty and its right to exist as a Jewish state. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.